What up, what up, what up, everybody? Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Finance Rebel Show. I'm Kamari Ellis, your Finance Rebel. Tonight we are talking about NIL, or name, image, and likeness. It's revolutionizing college sports. Before, college athletes basically had to take like a vow of poverty, but now they're able to monetize their name, their image, and their likeness. And this is actually a game changer because before, many athletes would, go play sports ball, wouldn't make any money, potentially blow out their knee or have a major catastrophic injury, and never really have a chance to make big money because they never made it to the pros. But now, when we have social media, now we have 24-hour TV and news, sports athletes are megastars now. So now they're able to make some, due to the changes, they're now able to make real money. Now, I am not the expert on this, and y'all know I like to bring on the experts. So I brought on the expert, Miss Karin Coger, who has been practicing law, IP law, and intellectual property law for the last 20 plus years. So everybody say hello to Karin. How you doing, lady?
Hello, and thank you, Kamara, for having me. And I just want to clear it up. I've been practicing law for 20 plus years, but have focused in this area since 2019.
Okay, all right, but still practicing law 2 decades in. We not gonna skip over that.
Okay.
That's a big thing, especially in this climate. But first question: what in the world is NIL or image? Excuse me, name, image, and likeness.
Okay. Name, image, and likeness has actually been around since the beginning of celebrity. So what it is when somebody is able to make money off of using their name, such as Jordan and Jordan Brand, using their image, their picture of themselves, or their likeness, such as when an athlete is when there's a when an athlete is depicted in a video game.
Mm,
So I think those are the clearest examples on how to break it down.
got you. And I mean, like you said, there have been brand deals since forever, leveraging NIL, but college athletes couldn't do it.
Nope.
What brought on the change about that for that?
So, so without going through the full history, college athletes were getting in trouble for using their name, image, and likeness somewhat underneath the table. And there a few years ago, they produced a video game, and a college athlete or former college athlete recognized his likeness in that video game. And a lawsuit ensued. And after many years, they have now made the change based upon the Supreme Court's ruling on July 1st of 2021.
Oh, that's what I saw, right? So July 1st. But there were some other states that really pushed this too. I know California and I think
Yep.
Alabama too, right?
Yes, California was the first to really push it.
Okay. Okay. I mean, because I'm not going to say college athletes didn't get any perks from being a college athlete, but it was really rough for a lot of them who didn't have major financial backing to really pursue this, just like anybody else. And I know it seemed like it hit black and brown college athletes the most. So do you see this as a leveling field or way to level the playing field a little bit?
Absolutely. These college athletes now have the chance to make hundreds of thousands, if not some are making millions of dollars off of their name, image, and likeness. This will allow them to set themselves up and perhaps their family for financial freedom, independence, and generational wealth.
Now, are you seeing like any trends? Because sometimes folks will now have the opportunity not necessarily go pro
That's
because they have a way of making money outside of the major leagues. So are you seeing that trend or
not
is that
yet
happening?
because it's not yet, only because it just started.
Right.
I mean, so there hasn't been enough time to see what these student athletes are doing, beyond college. Because if they were seniors, or if they were a fifth year player last year, they just got out of school in what, June? It's only August, so we're gonna have to wait and see what they do with this, because the idea behind it, or at least for NIL professionals, like you said, everybody's not going to go pro. I think it's about 2% that are going to go pro. So, and the reason why I got into this is, my position is, now that student athletes can make their own money, you essentially become your own boss. You're your own entrepreneur. You're your own brand. So perhaps if you don't go pro, what are you going to do with yourself afterwards?
Right, right, right. I mean, but I think it's great. I'm just like really, I don't know, fascinated by it all, right? Because again, it was always about, the one thing before was when they're going to go to draft, right?
Hmm.
And then not college, high school could go to draft, especially with basketball, right? Then they changed that rule. And then it was just like always trying to push back on getting to the money.
Hmm.
But again, now they can get to the money and it's a lot easier.
Yes.
Now, what should these athletes be thinking about though? Like, because again, in my experience, I've worked at a couple of firms that work with a couple of pro athletes, and I never liked to work directly with them. I always wanted to work in the back scenes because the egos are a little bit rough. They're still young. A lot of times they really don't appreciate the opportunity that they have, money wise, right?
Right.
So what should they be thinking about now that a lot of these barriers have been lifted?
There's a lot. I'm trying to think about where to start, but I would just say setting themselves up correctly from the beginning. My position to student athletes is that you should always have a lawyer and at least a financial person on your team, and everybody else falls underneath that. Meaning the sports agent, meaning the marketing firms. Those are the two people who are going to look out for your best interest from day one.
But the sports agent a lot of time is getting the deals, right? So uh,
Yes and no. So that's where things get murky. Okay, so let's say you sign up for a sports agent. The sports agent is taking their percent. Who's looking at the contract that you have with the sports agent, making sure that everybody is fulfilling what they're supposed to do? Who's ensuring that money gets into the bookkeeper's hands? So, and the thing is too, all college athletes do not need sports agents right now, especially because of NIL. You don't need a sports agent to get these NIL deals. These students can get NIL deals on their own if they want to. They can do that through social media.
clearly social media is a way that's totally lit fire or put fire on all this, or put gasoline on all this fire rather.
Mhm.
Um, what are some of the biggest deals you've seen? I mean, I just saw like a Hooters deal. We were talking about
Right.
that a little bit. Have you
Yeah.
seen anything else?
Oh yeah. Let me go to my list.
Oh wow.
I do try to keep track of this. So, I mean, when you say big deals, there's a few big deals that are out there. I know there was a, I believe it was a football player who went to Miami, and his deal was about 400,000. That name I don't know, off the top of my head, but there are. We'll talk about Hooters. So it was 10 offensive linemen who got deals. Some deals are going to whole teams. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Texas Tech actually hooked up a deal through a collective where, and this is the one I did the TikTok about today. The whole football team is getting 25,000. Now the whole basketball team is getting 25,000. Um, I wish I would have known you're going to ask me about all the top deals, but where you can go to see them and it's public, on 3db.com.
Okay, I'll get there in a minute. That's all. I did see this one though, right? Miami QB recruits gets $9.5 million NIL deal.
Mm-hmm.
That's some serious paper.
Exactly. Exactly. So what are you going to do with that at 19, and how are you going to handle that, and who's going to manage it for you?
Right. I mean, that could be the start of. I mean, that is generational wealth right there. If done properly, used properly. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. Nothing to sneeze
Exactly.
at all.
But
And
we've also seen pro athletes with these type of deals and blow it all.
right, really. Hmm. Why? Because they feel they're not big enough?
Well, not necessarily. I'm not talking about NIL deals. I'm just saying in terms of coming into millions of dollars in your
Yes.
early 20s and not properly taking care of it and blowing it off. So,
Right. Yeah. I mean, we've seen a lot of that. I mean,
mhm.
AI is probably one of the most famous stories for that, but he's still okay now, but clearly he spent a lot of money. He
He
spent a lot
spent
of
a
money.
lot of money, and thank goodness they finally had somebody come in and set up a deal and a trust for him to ensure he was able to keep some of his money. So now that he is, I think, 50 and is able to access his money, that was helpful. But somebody had to look out for him after people could see he couldn't look out for himself.
Right. And again, like you said, this is going to happen with a lot of these other younger, haven't even gotten to the pros yet.
Hmm.
So they're probably even more prone to some of the shenanigans. Or do you feel like the now college athlete is a bit more mature?
No, they're not.
They're
Wait.
not.
Okay, let me back up. Let me not say that blanketly. Yes, I think they're a bit more mature. I think that they definitely realize, hey, I gotta prepare for a life after college sports. They
Mhm.
are more entrepreneurial minded. So, you asked if there are any trends that I see. I guess perhaps that's a trend where the student athletes are saying, hey, I have access to this money now. Let me see what else I can do with it outside of sports. So some of them are parlaying it into jobs with the brands that they had deals with last year. Um, some of them have opened their own companies. Some have opened their own NIL companies. So I do think, and that is, I think it's Playbooked, is run by a student athlete.
Playbook,
Playbooked,
Claybooked, or Playbooked?
Playbooked. Let me make sure
Playbooked.
it's the one.
Wow. I mean, again, this is totally fascinating because this wasn't available just 5 years ago.
Exactly. And when we talk about generational wealth, so Playbook was started by Chloe Mitchell.
Mm.
She thought about it when she was in high school, but her dad was a former college athlete and a tech entrepreneur. So he was able to put his money behind her in order to help her start this business, which is also going to, generate money for her.
Wow. Wow. Okay. And so she's basically going out getting NIL deals for other student athletes to do their
Yes.
thing. Mm.
Yes. So there's a number of these platforms that have popped up, and I've pretty much made it a mission to try to talk to all of them in an effort to know who they are if I'm going to suggest to my student athletes or to the general public, where you should go in order to find NIL deals. So a lot of these platforms, Open Doors, Matchbook, Open Source, they Icon Sports, they are essentially a dating site between the student athlete and the brands. So the student athlete and or his or her representative and post their profile. Some of them have the metrics to pull their numbers directly out of Twitter and Instagram, so we know how many followers they have. Some that are on a deeper level are able to, with their AI, are able to pull out their engagements. So a brand can come in and if they're looking for a specific type, they can go in again, just like a dating site, say, I'm looking for a female tennis player who plays college in the Southwest, and that's the profile that's going to show up, and they'll decide whether or not they want to offer her a deal. Conversely, the student athletes that are on these sites, they can go to the brands themselves and ask, like, hey, I'm thinking about, I think that I use your products, I would love to work with you, and they could submit their deals essentially to the brands.
Now, is the only way to do this is to have a massive social media following? What if, and I know this is rare, but right, what if you're just really great at playing whatever sport and you have some notoriety, but you don't really do social media like that.
You,
Is it
you
still marketplace wrong?
you need to do social media. If
Oh, blanketly.
anything, if anything, so here's the thing: the brands are looking to sell their products. Okay, let's say you are one of the top athletes, and again, we hear these deals every day that the top athletes in their fields are getting hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million, or cars thrown at them. But that's because they have that following already on a high national level. But you're not at that level.
Right.
Okay, let's say you have 10,000 social media followers. You could still get a deal because what they're doing is looking to promote uh, they're promoting their product. And so you have to have people following you and therefore engaging with you and hopefully buying the product because they are following the student athlete. So the brands will say they're not necessarily interested in how many followers you have to a certain extent, but they're interested in how you engage with your followers.
Mm.
So it's not
Engagement is
enough
key.
just to, yeah, it's not enough just to be on there and say, hey, I have 100,000 followers, but you've never engaged with them.
So I'm gonna take this question a little bit out of order, right? So
Okay.
Stephen says, "What's good, bro? We're having fun with sports all day long." My question is, do they have to pay taxes or the NIL? Of course, they have to pay taxes,
As soon
right?
as they hit, $601.
Well, that's actually for filing a 1099 NEC.
Well,
If you
okay.
make $1, technically you're supposed to report it. Now, there's other rules and other reporting requirements, but that's the guideline I kind of follow.
Right. So, so when you work with these websites, it's called the NIL Marketplace, and I'm gonna drop a link for you, Kamari, so you can pull it up for your followers.
Okay.
A lot of them take care of this for you, because the way the marketplace makes money, the deals, the brands go to the marketplace, they list the deals on their site. The website usually takes their portion from the brand, not taking any of the money from the student athlete, and issues the student athlete 1099. So,
I mean, that makes sense.
yeah.
And, whatever percentage that they're getting, that's part of it. And I'm guessing they're tracking the brands and all of that as well, right? To
Mm-hmm.
make sure that they don't get stiffed on any deals that they're getting.
Absolutely.
Now, how young should folks start thinking about NIL? Should the sixth grader that's getting rated by, what is it, Stan and Smiths, be
Yep.
thinking about NIL?
Yes, for two reasons.
Really?
Yes.
God.
Here's the thing. Okay. I can't chat and talk at the same time. So Kamari, the website that you want to go to is the Business of College Sports
Oh,
NIL
okay.
tracker.
Yep, I got it.
Okay, so with respect to the youth, so right now only a number of states have allowed high school students to monetize off of their NIL. But even if your state does not allow it, you should start in your teens. That is the website. Great. You should start in your teens because again, um, these brands are looking for you to be on social media, and to have followers and to engage. So you don't want to wait until you step foot on the college campus, as a freshman to start doing social media. So you see some of these student athletes, got deals right off the jump on July 1st. Well, a lot of them were already on social media with followers and engaging. So among this list that you're scrolling down, these are websites in which the student athletes, and like I said, and or their representatives can go on and they can list themselves to be found by brands.
Wow. Again, I'm like really just blown away by all this.
Hmm. And there are new websites popping up every day. So I'll tell you the ones that I'm cool with.
And you're probably cool with all of them.
I'll get there. I'll get there. So as we go down the list. Okay, athlete.
Mhm.
I just spoke with them today. Okay, this one of the founders of Athlete is a former NFL player. Um,
And that is Athlyt, right?
yep, he's a
Okay.
former NFL player. They actually do group deals frequently. So instead of just trying to find, one student athlete, let's say a brand is looking for the whole football team. So they do that pretty frequently.
Now,
Uh,
this is interesting. It says 10% fee charged to the brand,
mhm,
no fee for student athletes.
correct.
So
And
they're really advocating for the student athletes.
absolutely. And most of them are like that.
Wow.
Now, just to give a shout out, the business of college sports is run by a former attorney, and she's a sports writer, Christy Dosh. So she has given me permission to, I mean, it's on the website, but she has given me permission to tell people about it, to spread the word, because this is to help everybody. Clean Connect, I believe they are only football right now. Let me scroll down. Okay, Dreamfield. Now, some of these websites, like I said, you can sign up on your own, or some just go through the schools. Dreamfield is decent. Icon Source, I give them a thumbs up.
Oh, we giving approval ratings. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Uh,
Okay. So
Match Point.
Icon Source, Match Point.
Mm-hmm. Open Doors and Open Sponsorship. It's pretty much the one so far that I've had the opportunity to talk to.
Now, what goes into you giving them a thumbs up or a thumbs down? Is it purely
Um,
related?
yes, it's a conversation with somebody from the company. Obviously, it's a walkthrough of their website, being able to see what goes on their website from the player's perspective and from the brand's perspective, learning exactly what they are looking for. Some of these websites or some of these platforms do have special relationships with HBCUs. So that I'm an HBCU grad, so obviously that sticks out in my mind.
I knew that was going
The
to come up. I knew that was going to come up.
yeah,
And I
the
mean,
number.
listen, while we're talking about it, we might as well give your HU a shout out.
Oh, both of my HUs. So shout out to Hampton University undergrad, Howard University, in which I attended their School of Law.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm
Ah,
HU
that's dope.
squared.
Okay, HU cred.
All
Dope,
right, no
dope, dope.
problem. And here's the thing with some of these platforms, they're not just NIL platforms. Some of them have been around before NIL was open for student athletes. They just did it for professionals. So once NIL opened up for student athletes, they added it on. So when you're saying, what how do you give them a thumbs up? That comes into play. It's like, oh, they're not just this new kid on the block that opened up yesterday. They've been doing this for 10 years.
Now, just going through the business of college sports, I just stumbled upon this just now.
Mm.
And I'm fascinated by this, right? Because I want to try to blow this up. But they're talking about basically how much money the NCAA makes.
Yep.
And I don't think this is the schools. This is just NCAA.
NCAA.
And that's crazy, right? So in 2021, the NCAA made $915 million from television and marketing rights,
Mm-hmm.
$61 million from championships and NIT tournaments. They had investment income of roughly $61 million, sales and services $33 million, insurance $81 million, facilities $3.1 million, all total $1.15 billion. And none of that prior to 2021 was going to the student athletes.
Correct.
That's again, this is very mind-boggling. So, I mean, in respects to the elders and the ancestors, I almost want to say it's slavery, but geez Louise, like, Now, there's another question in the chat, right? Kind of linking to that.
Okay.
Do child labor laws still exist? And if so, are they enforced, right? So it's almost like these universities were really pimping out their students.
Essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, were nobody ever thought about child labor laws with them because a lot of them are younger than 18. Um, why did that go on for so long?
I can't necessarily say why. And that would be outside of
Your scope.
yes. I'm looking back and forth, so I'm trying to send you another website that lists the top deals so you can see what these student athletes are getting right now. And I also want to discuss what the student athletes that are not getting the top deals are doing, because that's essentially who I work with, because they need representation too.
Okay, so why aren't they getting the top deals?
So most of the student athletes that are on this list that I just sent you, like I said, they are stars, in their own right. They are, the top quarterback. They are the, uh, defensive lineman. Like these are the top people that have already been in the media. Okay.
All right, give me 1 second. I'll pull it up.
Sure.
1 second. Now, while I'm switching over, everybody, do me a favor, please, 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 please. The algorithm, Big Brother, is always watching, right? So make sure y'all drop a like, and do me a favor, share it out, because that's how the algorithm knows that this is quality programming. So that you, the audience, actually enjoy it and like it. All right. So NIL deal tracker we have here. So we have Sheldon Sampson Jr., DeMarvian Overshown. Let's see, undisclosed. So he has a deal. So what are we looking at here? And so there's an NIL value.
Yes. So this value has been given by this particular site. Like I said, it's called on3.com. And when you click on a person, if you click on Sheldon, they'll tell you how they break it down. So click on him for the people.
Alrighty. So Sheldon is worth $230K NIL.
Yep.
High school, and so he's a high school football athlete from Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Right. So they have their own algorithm. When you click on about NIL valuations, it breaks down their algorithm. But this is saying that this high school guy, he already has. Oh, it doesn't matter which one. They're all the same. But essentially, gotcha. All right, you're looking at Sheldon. So he has almost 12,000 followers on between Instagram and Twitter.
Okay.
Based on the value that this website came up with, his per post value is, $319.
Okay. Now, I'm looking at this, right? So I have more IG followers than this kid right now, but probably in 6 months to a year, he's going to leave me way behind.
Yep. And now, Kamara, you can get yourself an NIL deal too. This isn't just for student athletes.
I was going to say, what am I going to do? Like, spades? Like I could do like a spades ranking.
Yep. I mean, seriously though, like I said, these companies existed before this opened up for student athletes. This is just new for them, and it's new money that's flowing in. But people talk, how people talk about like an Instagram model. Those are the people that are on Instagram and making money for displaying whatever product, whatever wig, whatever shoe, whatever sports drink, and they're getting paid per post, for it. So again, it's just that it's new to student athletes, but this has been around.
Okay. I mean, I know anybody's famous, right? And we could go with fame in a whole different direction, but anybody that has any kind of notoriety, that's known for whatever it is, have always been able to get, quote unquote endorsement deals.
Right.
If you're a basketball player, you could always do a commercial for the local car dealership or the local big restaurant in town, but it's never been like this before. So I
Correct.
would
And
be
now student
thinking about
athletes,
becoming. Oh, go ahead.
you should. And I was saying now student athletes, do have that opportunity. Sheldon, with his almost 12,000 followers, there's a space in here for everybody. I mean, there's a term, it's a nano influencer. I think if you have under 5,000 followers,
Yeah, well, I'm
and
like a super nano
right,
producer.
right. So that's the concern. So some of the student athletes that I've talked to, and I'm like, have you thought about this? Have you heard of this? So we'll get back to have you heard of this in a minute. But they're like, no, I didn't think I was eligible because I don't have that many followers. Okay, well, why don't you get on there and get some followers? like right now, if you want to succeed or you want to be seen in this space, you need to be on social media and you need to make content because that's what they are looking for.
Yeah, but I would probably get in trouble.
Well,
I
it
can
depends.
be a little controversial at times, right?
It
So
depends, Kamari. There's something out there for everybody, but there might be a company that likes that. And I mean, when this first started, the NCAA had their guidelines, and then they say refer to your state and then refer to your school. So in the beginning, they said no, no alcohol, no cannabis. That's changed in 14 months. It depends on your state, but there's a student athlete down in Florida. He got an alcohol deal. There is a student
wait a minute.
athlete.
How old is he?
He's over 18.
But I thought you had to
No,
be
wait,
over
no. I'm
21.
sorry. I take that back. He's over 21. I'm sorry. But
Okay.
that was the caveat. That was the caveat. You had to be over 21. And again, his school and the state, had to have laws that allow that. If you go to a school that doesn't allow it, you know. So I don't want anybody just thinking, oh, I can just jump out there and, get on Snoop's cannabis brand. But depending on your state and your state and your school, maybe you are.
But you just said something. So the school actually has to approve as well.
No. The school does not have to approve. What happens is when you get an NIL deal, what you do have to do is report it to the school. You have to report it to the compliance department. They make sure it's within compliance. So again, there are still certain rules that you have to abide by, but they can't say, hey, I don't like bull and basket water. You can't take a deal with them. It has to be something that's against the rules.
What are some of the rules? I mean, just I know it's broad. I'm sure it's broad. But
Um,
can you give?
like I said, well, gambling, alcohol, recreational drugs are the top three.
So anything that's kind of potentially illegal for the
Yeah.
age group, right? For the age group, right?
Right.
That probably is off the table. Is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. Okay. All right. But I wanted to real quick. I just wanted to give JT a shout out because JT and I can be very controversial. He probably would get a brand deal way before me, as he has a way bigger following. But shout out to JT. I don't know. I talk a lot about scammers, and that usually doesn't get that gets a lot of people mad.
Mhm.
So it would be interesting. It would be interesting. But anyway, so anybody can do an NIL deal. They just have to have a following, kind of like the Kardashians, right?
Yep.
Is what you're saying.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Now, back to the child labor law. Is that something folks should be thinking about?
Um, I'm trying to look at this comment. Do they still exist? I mean, if you are underage, you are still a minor. Just like when we were in school, you had to get what is it, a working pass? What do we get
Working
this summer?
papers.
Yeah.
Working papers. We showing our age now.
And you know what? And that does sound like slavery now. But remember, you had certain working papers from like 14 to 16 and then 16 to 17.
Mhm.
So let's think about it like that.
Mhm.
But again, I mean, I have to tell you, high school, high school is coming fast. Mississippi just flat out said no to NIL for high schoolers. They're like, they should not be thinking about that right now. But we're in the local area. It's allowed in Jersey. PA is probably on the verge of passing it soon.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Hmm.
Mhm.
Interesting. Interesting.
This is fun stuff.
I mean, it's very fun stuff. It's very interesting. I mean, I do appreciate how it's helping to level the playing field. So,
Hmm.
if somebody really is passionate about, I don't know, badminton or cornhole or football or basketball, they can actually make some money
Right.
and not be beholden just to big brother of major institution NCAA universities
Exactly.
or the NBA or the NFL or MLBL.
Right.
So I think it gives
Now,
opportunity.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to cut you off. When you were talking about trends, I'll talk about trends from the brand end of things. So that trend is forming collectives at the universities. So alumni of the universities are getting together, pooling their money, pooling their companies, and a lot of them are offering those big deals that you hear about.
But oh man, what's the term they used to? Would that be like a
Boosters.
booster? Yes.
So there is so with that, um, there are a couple of senators who I don't like, and a few people in the NIL space, that are trying to now go in and regulate it. Um, so there's a slippery slope, right? Um, per NCAA rules, there is no pay for play, and that's what they tried to stop when it was the boosters that were doing it. So a student athlete cannot just get an NIL deal for $25,000 because they're on the field playing. There has to be something that they're providing. So whether it is they're running a camp or they're showing up at an event, they're signing autographs, they're signing balls. There has to be something. They, in theory, they cannot just get money for playing for the school.
Got you. So my question earlier, like if you didn't have social media, could you do it? And more than likely not, because they would say you're just getting it because you're a college athlete.
Um. So let me say this. All right. The biggest 67% of the deals come through social media. So, there's a whole other percentage that's out there. But again, like I said, you can do appearances, you can do camps, you can do clinics. There are other things that you can do without having a huge social media following. But having the social media, that's the lowest barrier of entry in
Right,
terms of what can you do to get a deal if you're not a top player.
right, right, right. Okay. Now you were starting to tell us about some of the clients that you're representing, and you said they don't get some of the big deals. And
Mhm.
I asked you why. Why is that?
Okay, so if you're not one of these top players at one of the top schools, there's a few things. Some students don't even know about it or don't know how to get started. So some of the schools have partnered with people on that list that I showed you, open
Mhm.
doors, whatever, and they will, that goes out to the athletic department. The students are made aware that this is here if you want to sign up. Nobody's forced to sign up. And remember, I told you there was one that was like, well, I didn't even bother because I didn't think I had enough social media followers.
Mhm.
Um, some people don't have the list. Most people don't have the list that I just showed you and don't realize that they can do it on their own. Another big thing is they do not set themselves up to be found. So I actually had my masterclass last night, and that was the topic: is how can you get found for NIL deals. So you
Ah,
want so you want to set up your social media using your government name. You don't want your email to be like fastfoot20 at Gmail. Nobody knows who you are. And if that's your Twitter handle and that's your Instagram handle, how do we know who you are? So I was specifically working with somebody, and they said, I am looking for an HBCU student in these states. and they had to be female. It actually took me a long time to find them. So
Wow.
once I went on the school's websites, looked up the team, tried to match the players' names with social media. It was difficult, and of course, the ones that stood out were the ones that actually had their names in their social media handle. So that may seem very simple, but it is an issue. So if you were, fastfoot29 at Gmail, at 13, you might want to change that to Joe Blow, at Gmail now. Also, you want to have your school, your number, and your position in your social media handle. Don't just say DM me. Some will and some won't, but provide some way for them to be in contact with you. Um, so, I mean, that's just something that's very simple and basic that all of them can change.
Gotcha. 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 All right. Here's another question. I think it's good. So Byron, my man Byron asks, is there a coordinated effort to require players receiving NIL to have financial education classes, budgeting, taxes, etc., etc.?
Yep. It depends on the state. Some states have, and when they do it, it depends on how much they have to do. So, for instance, a state might say you just need like one credit of finance class. Um, my position and the student athletes that I'm working with, I feel like they need to have their own independent finance education. If your school doesn't offer it, there are people out there, and just like there's people popping up in NIL spaces all over the place, there's financial literacy classes, that they can take, because also you don't want to just, oh, let me go get a bookkeeper and an accountant, they'll handle all my money. And then when your money's gone, because you or somebody else wasn't watching it, you're going to wonder like, what happened?
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, that sounds scary though. That sounds scary. Now, I'm assuming the same rules for an athlete under 18 would apply. Parents need to be involved in the whole nine.
Yes, because under 18, cannot enter into a contract without your parents.
Right, right, right. So yeah, I mean, that this is kind of scary though, because again, what was that one deal? Almost 9 million for that kid in Miami. I mean, that could really be a game changer. I
Yeah.
mean, and if they mess that up, that's a blown opportunity. A blown
Yeah.
opportunity.
It can be a game changer, and he could never, play ball again.
Now Byron beat me to the point, right? He beat me to the question because I was going to ask this: how are they protecting themselves from financial scams, fake investors, fake advisors? The same things that regular pro athletes get hit with all the time.
Yep, the same thing. There is nothing protecting them. That's why they have to protect themselves. And I mean, even if somebody, decides to work with me, I say go have another attorney review the contract. You need to have layers of protection, but the NCAA isn't going to do anything to protect them. The school is not going to do anything to protect them. I just heard this one story from again, the woman who runs the website. She was cautioning student athletes about working with brands that were asking for the direct deposits, because then they went in and cleaned out their accounts. Yeah.
Wow. And that was clearly a scam.
Yep.
Reputable brands, I mean, will do direct deposits as well, but
Yep. And
you
that's the
got to
thing.
be careful.
Is this a reputable brand? Have they been around, or are they just, some online shop that popped up on Instagram?
So yeah, I guess they should have a whole separate account for the sketchy ones. So,
Well, most
or
of
have
them,
different accounts.
yeah, I mean, most of them are paying through PayPal or something like that. I would probably think PayPal right now is the safest for some of the lower level deals. But there are some numbers I wanted to provide for you.
Okay.
Um,
Now, while Corinne's pulling that up, I appreciate everybody that's there. Do me a favor, like, comment, and share. Like, comment, and share this. All right, so while you're looking it up, I'll do this, read this question as well. Major League Baseball has been dealing with child labor laws for years. Ken Griffey Jr. was 19 when he started in Major League, so this nothing new. But child labor laws wouldn't apply to Ken Griffey Jr. because he was 19, right? Almost certain. But interesting, interesting.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right. So the average amount that student athletes made in NIL deals last year was between $1,800 and $1,500.
For
Okay.
the whole year?
For the whole year.
Okay.
So, and I want to mention this because again, everybody focuses on the huge deals. Like
Right.
you also want to be realistic. And with those numbers, the average transaction was $53. Okay.
Mm. Okay.
Um, right now, football leads in deals. Women's basketball comes in second. Gymnastics comes in third. Ohio State players, for all of Ohio State, not just football, they did 1,000 deals last year.
Mm.
And let's see.
And I'm guessing the money will follow the popularity as well.
Correct. Correct. So even on this site that I showed you, on three, part of their evaluation is they do look at their performance on the field. Did they have a big play? Are people now all of a sudden paying attention to them? This makes a difference in the type of deals that you get. Who's going to be interested in you? You might have a good day on the field, on Saturday, and a brand could be in your inbox on Sunday. But I wanted to point out these numbers because I want people to be realistic. We have, not we, meaning he's not signed to me, but Raekwon Smith out of Norfolk State. He's been dubbed the king of NIL because right now he has over 80 deals.
Wow.
And his position was, so what he did is when July 1st, when he heard about it, he got on his computer and he said he contacted 100 companies. A bunch did not respond and a bunch did. So he had initiative. He put himself out there, and he got in on it at the beginning, like the very beginning. So there is still a lot of money out there. It's predicted that brands are going to spend over $1 billion next year just on NIL deals.
Mm. And so I'm looking for Raekwon Smith now.
He's on
And
Twitter. I mean, he runs his own Twitter. Um,
yeah, I looked at him for here. He's not on here. He's not on three. But yeah. Well, I'll look him up on Twitter as well.
you can just
But
Google him and he'll come up.
yes, he did. He did. He
Mm.
absolutely did.
Right. So, okay. Do you have another question for me?
What's that?
I wanted to know if you had another question for me before I just rambled on.
No, what I was going to say, it makes sense that he has 80 deals because it's very much entrepreneurial to a certain degree as well.
Correct. Because
Yes.
NIL is not for everybody. I mean, there are some student athletes out there that have the following, but they're like, I don't want to do the work, or I don't have time to do the work. I'm a student, I'm an athlete, I don't have time to do this. And that's okay. There's money on the table. If you choose not to get it, you choose not to get it. But it
Right.
is a part-time job.
Well, if he had 80 deals, it sounds like it's a full-time job though. Also.
Yep. And I mean, and it's on the go. Some of the student athletes receive in-kind deals. So, they're getting paraphernalia, shirts, water bottles, free meals at the local restaurant. But like I said, I just wanted to show this is what the average student is getting at this juncture. But it's not going to stay like that.
Right. 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 I mean, I'm looking at Raekwon right now. I just again blown away by all of this. Blown away by all of this. So he went pro. It looks like.
I don't know. He's still at Norfolk State. He's in his last year. He's running track and field this year. He's not even doing football.
Okay, maybe I'm looking at the wrong thing.
Yeah, do Raekwon Smith, Norfolk State, or Raekwon Smith, King of NIL.
Alrighty. Give me 1 second. Appreciate that, John. Yes, I definitely want to talk about this, because the community aspect, the black angle on this as well, I feel is something we need to be thinking about because listen, the only thing bigger than football on Sunday is Little League football on Saturdays and Sundays. So, it's something I know a lot of people are going to be thinking about and talking about. And as Byron and a few other people said it, they're going to need to protect themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Corinna said it. They're going to need to protect themselves. I especially like the fact that you said they need to have their own financial education,
Mm-hmm.
not financial advisor. Because I'm going to be totally honest.
Mm-hmm.
I was listening to respond, right? You should never listen to respond, folks. Listen to people. I thought Corinna was going to say they should have their own financial advisors. And I was going to say that's scary too, because if you don't know enough to correct them or guide whatever advisor you have,
Mm-hmm.
they can take you for bad as well.
Yep.
But Corinne is always sharp. She's always sharp. I don't even know
All
why
right.
I went there right. All right, so Byron said if small schools are smart, they can allow for small school alumni to unify and target athletes they normally don't get and build better programs. This requires strategy. But wouldn't that still be kind of along the lines of booster?
The big schools are doing it.
Mm.
So as long as it is considered legal, don't get left behind. These schools, all schools have notable alumni, and that graduated 5 years ago, 10 years ago, that are CEOs, that are in the C suites, that are in media. This is a part of the strategy. But yeah, do what Texas and Alabama and Ohio States, all of them right now are coming up with collectives, which is alumni putting in money. And what they do, when you said, Byron, that they should have a strategy, the collectives come together, they pull their money together, and then again, it can't be paid for play, right? So they have to offer something to their boosters. So whether it's, meet and greet after the game, student athlete, shows up at some event. But this is what they're doing, and this is where a lot of this money is coming from, and the small schools will be left behind.
But small schools, I'm hearing HBCUs, and I know all small schools aren't HBCUs, right? But I'm thinking about like what Prime is going with, or what Deion Sanders is going through. He went to Jackson State, started to work the program, started to do some things, and then Nick Saban, the Alabama head coach, said
Mm-hmm.
that they're basically paying the players.
Yep.
But it's been alleged that Alabama has been playing through boosters and other things for a long, long time.
That's correct.
And
And
go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say I love what Shannon Sharp said about it. He was like, "You guys have been doing this for a long time, but now that it's being offered to HBCU students and Black students are choosing to go to HBCUs, ranked number one. I think that was Travis Hunter. Now you're mad."
Right, right. And again, this presents a great playing field because, like Shannon said, and I love Shannon's response to this. Right, is that why go play at some backwoods? These were Shannon's words. Some backwoods country um, university when you could go to a Jackson State, a Howard U, a Hampton, a
Mhm.
FAM.
Yep.
Anybody who has a good sports program and bring them more notoriety and not have to deal with some of the other pressures that many black athletes don't talk about
Right.
at these PWI institutions. So,
Absolutely. And
yeah,
if you are a Travis Hunter, who is a top guy, and the money's following him wherever he goes. It wasn't like, oh, he's only going to get this deal if he goes to this school, which again, against the rules. Um,
so where do you think this is going to go, especially for HBCUs?
so for HBCUs, I talked to everybody. I've been in contact with a lot of them, and right now, a lot of people don't understand where it's going to go, and they need to hurry up and they need to catch up. A lot of them have an NIL policy that just mirrors, the NCAA because they don't really know what to do with themselves. HBCUs should partner with some of the websites I showed you. Influencer, is one of them. Open Doors, set up a system where all the athletes at the school, have an opportunity. It's an opportunity for all of them. HBCUs need to provide this, the financial education that we talked about. They need to start their own collectives, just like the big schools. They don't want to be left in the dust and then wondering why their student athletes, did not, you know, they did not come out on top when it comes to, these deals.
I mean, because this is a big opportunity to start getting some more TV money.
Yeah,
Because again, they're able to recruit better. Not everybody, but better. Prime has definitely showed the way. We're
absolutely.
seeing more. We're seeing more that are coming. I saw somebody else was coming, but it can be done. You just have to have a good program. It can't just be. It's because it's a black school.
Right,
It's a black school with a great program,
right.
right? And that's going to help develop you. So I mean, I think it's great.
Yeah,
I think
Grambling
it's
is
really, really
coming
great.
up. Probably went like Grambling and FAMU are pretty much trying to follow the Jackson State model.
Okay, okay. And I mean, it's funny because Doug Williams, who was Grambling's head coach, or is still Grambling's head coach, Prime or Deion Sanders said he taught them first
Hmm.
because that's his mentor
Yep,
in that regard. So it's amazing what can be done when we stick together and we share information and we do some things. So I think that's great. I think that's great.
absolutely.
Now I don't want to keep you too long because we could talk about this all day long. But let everybody know where they can find you at if they have questions about NIL or potential clients for NIL. Where can they find you at?
The best way to reach me is via email, which is first name, last name, Karin Coger at cogerlawfirm.com. Due to all the changes in NIL, my website is under construction, but I can also be found on Twitter and on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
All right, so make sure y'all follow her, y'all, Karin Coger. All
Yeah.
right, so Karin, I appreciate you. I appreciate you immensely.
I appreciate you for having me on. Thank you so much.
Of course, and got to have you back when we have more major NIL developments come through.
Absolutely. Thanks a lot.
So thank you. So listen, everybody, I appreciate you all being here. I just dropped another video about some IRS updates on my YouTube channel. Go and check that out. The IRS is giving out free money. But until next time, this is the Finance Rebel Show. I'm Kamari Ellis, and I will see you all later.